My aim for this project is to learn how to improve upon my art and pixel art, how to create minimaps in Construct, and how to create AI. I want to achieve this because they are skills that would be helpful going forth in building my own games for a portfolio to use in getting a job in the games development industry and possibly film industry, depending on where it goes with the art. Maybe I want to take a different direction, so like with doing art, it's always you've got stuff to fall back on as well, which is good. Areas I researched for my project were YouTube, Wikipedia, Gamasutra, and IGN. Most of the links I used, like the main ones, are down at the bottom there. That will take me to tutorials and like on YouTube on how to do this and this. Whereas the other, like last three, are more the technical and analytical research. So, for my inspirational research, I playtested a game called Bob the Robber. When playtesting the game, it sparked a few ideas for what I could do for my project in terms of gameplay and level design. It gave me the idea to add time challenges and rewards for actually completing the level. This will give the player an incentive to keep playing the game instead of feeling like they're doing it for nothing other than completing the levels. In Bob the Robber, they did this through giving the players stars from collecting miscellaneous items throughout the levels, such as items and documents. The link for my playtest is on YouTube, and the link is right there at the bottom. Okay. For my analytical research, websites I used when researching my project were Gamasutra, Wikipedia, and IGN. On Gamasutra, I researched what reactive stealth was and what active stealth was. Before I researched this, I only knew that to be only one type of stealth AI, and after researching this, I now know better and that there is more than one type. Okay, so reactive AI means the player has very little impact and is forced to rely on hiding and staying out of the line of sight of the AI. Active AI allows the player to influence the AI's upcoming move and change the enemy's detection instead of them being set in a specific way. So, an example of this could be like you've moved an object in front of them, they can no longer walk that way, so they're now going to start walking a different way, and you could just continuously do things like that to alter their movement and things like that, etc. Whereas reactive would be they walk a certain path and you can't do anything to change that, and you just have to try and avoid that path. On Wikipedia, I researched what the foundations for a stealth game are and found out that stealth games heavily rely on the player to hide amongst the darkness, and that darkness is your best friend in them games. And that is, I'd say, commonly seen as the foundation for a stealth game because it is shown in the first stealth games up until even the newest ones, and it's just used a lot because it's extremely helpful, easy to pull off, and it's effective and works for what you need to do. And for the AI to be somewhat, also you need the AI to be somewhat ignorant and oblivious to its surroundings. This makes the experience of the player somewhat more enjoyable. It's slightly easier because if you had an AI that could have a vision, for example, as good as us, they could see you from extremely far from the corner of your eye, and you'd just get spotted extremely easily, and it'd make it very, very difficult to progress through the games. And sometimes when games are too difficult, you don't really want to play them because you get stuck and annoyed very easily, and you then don't really want to play them as much. Yeah, again, links for the research are at the bottom. For my technical research, when doing my technical research, I use YouTube for my tutorials. The tutorials I used were by them too. I can't pronounce their names, so I'm just going to leave it at that. One video taught me how to create a mini-map. A mini-map is just a low poly overview of your surroundings, usually displayed at the top corner or corners of your screen. The other tutorial taught me how to create the AI for my game. This is really helpful going forth for my projects. They have both core features in my game that before research I didn't know how to do, and without them it wouldn't be what I'm trying to achieve in my game. It just wouldn't really be a game at all. It'd just be blank levels without any focus or thing to achieve. So that's really helpful to do that. My audience, so for my intended audience, my game, they are supposed to be 16 plus. The reason I made this decision was because my game being about stealth, it required a lot of patience. And I wanted to try my best to cater to those with issues such as ADHD and so on. This factor alone bumped up to a 16 plus because my solution to cater towards it was to add a little bit of violence in the form of being able to kill the enemies, in which that would allow you to navigate the level slightly faster. But I didn't want it to be super easy to complete levels just by killing all the enemies. So you still have to be strategic and in killing them, and killing them in the wrong place or wrong time could get you spotted by another enemy within the level. And that can, at the moment I'm still thinking about it, but I'd say when you get spotted, I think it just restart that level. I think that might be a good approach. And for my research on my audience, I also took out a survey of what people enjoyed about stealth games and what features really bring the game together for them. This was helpful because it just lets me know a bit more about my target audience and what they like in stealth games. So it was very helpful to take out that survey, and at the bottom you can see 2 questions I asked from that survey. I only chose 2, then them 2, because I couldn't get all of them obviously on such limited space, etc. Primary research. For my primary research, I booked presentations with AJ from Dolly Studios and Holly Ackrill, a freelance artist working in the games industry. In the presentation with AJ, I asked questions such as what software is good for games development and that prompted us to answer Unity and Unreal Engine. Another question I asked AJ was if university was worth investing time and money into. That left me with the answer of it really being up to what you want to do specifically. Some parts don't require university, whereas some parts do. The questions I asked Holly were kind of similar to AJ's, of like what software I recommend to use as an artist working in the games development industry, in which she recommended to use either Maya or Blender, but she tended to lean more towards Blender as it's equally as powerful and it's free and close to becoming industry standard because it is so good and yet it's free, whereas Maya costs around £200 like a year. I think it was, or a month, I think it was a month. Some extra research I did was I booked a webinar online about VFX animation. This was extremely helpful to me as it gave me a better insight to what to expect in the industry and how to apply it to get a role in it. The presentation / webinar taught me that most of the companies / teams working in the industry look for experience over qualifications. So from 16 plus, you could have a portfolio for them that if good enough, you can go into training or work there or some sort of apprenticeship. And yeah, it doesn't require you to have that qualification of saying you've done this. If you have the work to present and you can do it, they will happily take you on. The next steps for my presentation, or those for my FMP, are to create my game and implement everything I've learned from my research into my game. And I may possibly take out some more research if at any point I feel is insufficient. I have an insufficient amount of knowledge, or don't know how to do something, or am lacking the skills or research in that area to then take out my FMP any further. So yeah, that's all. Thank you for listening.